All right. Welcome everybody to the June edition of the Forest Park Southeast Neighborhood Association meeting. Welcome. Let me close out. There we go. Let me take 1 second. Speaker. There we go. Ground rules. Please enter your questions into the chat if you are online. Please no interruptions and behave with common courtesy. If you have a question or a comment, this mic stinks. If you have a question or a comment in the room, raise your hand. I can pass over the mic and you can speak. Today's agenda, we'll start with public comments. If anyone has anything they'd like to share, I'll pass the mic over to you. We'll go through the treasurer's report, crime and safety report from Officer Walker. She should be here tonight. We'll go through some more updates, neighborhood updates. I'll cover some events and some news. And then we have our guest speakers tonight talking about Steinberg Rink updates. Did want to start off with public comments. It was told to me that Irving Blue has passed away, so I just wanted to take a moment to recognize Irving and his leadership in the Forest Park Southeast area. He was a caring, distinguished gentleman, did a lot for the neighborhood. So just wanted to take a moment to recognize him and his work. Not sure if anyone knew of Irving, but if you'd like to say any words, if you did, happy to pass the mic over to you. Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. Irving Blue lived at the end of my block, the 4500 block of Gibson, and I got to know him when he first moved into the neighborhood. After that initial period where I saw him fairly frequently, I didn't see him very much afterwards, but every once in a while I would see him or his wife Lisa, and it's good to know that there were good people taking care of that house and doing good work for the neighborhood and the city. I give Irving credit. Thank you.
Any other public comments, concerns, questions, things that people would like to share before we move on to the treasurer's report? Yeah.
Well, I can have a minute show a welcome to Brown House. They had their ribbon cutting ceremony today, and then I was there. It is stunning. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility on the inside. What they're doing for those families is just really, really gratifying. It's wonderful. And everyone that you talk to, and it's then agrees me on this, asks us how the neighborhood felt about it. If we thought they were, it was a good thing that they were there, and we did to everyone that, yeah, everyone's thrilled that they're here. So they encouraged us to tell the neighborhood, anybody in the neighborhood to just go in, and they're not having anybody in there till the 1st of July. So there's plenty of time to go and take a look around if you want to. It's really, really wonderful.
Yeah, that's not what I wanted to share. I'm just gonna pull up a couple pictures here of Ronald McDonald House if I can find it. Let's try this. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
These were shared by WMCRC on the Facebook page. Just gonna flip through some of these photos for you. Guest speakers. The inside.
I think it should also be noted that they have like a larger gathering space in there, and I think in the past they said that they were going to make it available people in the neighborhood to reserve. I able to see to confirm that, but, that is 50 plus the max. So,
What kind of large gathering space is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's what yeah. The other thing that they did.
Oh, here, it's just so,
They had the serenity rooms. You might remember that chapel that was in the corner next to that manufacturing. They took two of the stained glass out of that chapel and put them in this, what they call their serenity rooms, which are required. Parents, they're just to get away from the noise and just to have some alone time, you know, they're small, kind of prayer meditation rooms. And then the bell
yeah,
from the chapel is also out in front of the building. And it's big. I was really, yeah, surprised, but I think this is super cool that they kept that stuff. I don't know, the whole place is just so thoughtful.
thank you all. That's lovely. Any other public comment before we move on? Man, the audio is not great right now. No, all right, quickly cover the treasurer's report. Want me to do it? You can do it.
I can do it.
All right.
Go for it.
The usual $15.99 for soup expenses, and we have $50 in dues and donations, so, ending for the month, is $2,550.57. As usually, you can, cash at us, or if you're coming to the neighborhood cleanups, or any event, give me cash, if you can cash. Give any of us cash. And we'll deposit it.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Cool. A lot of your dues and donations go to our events that we host throughout the year. We'll cover that here, later in the meeting. I will pass it over to Officer Walker, who is handing out, a crime report right now. Talk about, crime and safety updates. I can pass it for you.
Hello, everyone. Officer Walker, Madison Neighborhood Liaison Officer. As they understand, I was handing out some of the crime reports, it's just basically goes over, any guys indicate of what type of calls that were responding to the neighborhood. For us, first, I think that's been one of our mission zones, over the last couple of weeks, mission space, because we put an uptick in crime, which made us focus more on a particular neighborhood. A lot of guys crime again, as I say, each month comes along with Manchester Grove area. We get a lot of corporate things along the strip and some of the side streets on the weekends. So a lot of crime and the uptick of why you guys came on our mission, maybe it's because of crime that's taking place when people are going out to the clubs. Anyone who has a business owner, or knows someone that's a business owner, we're kind of trying to, talk to them and get the word out that we have some uptick in business first. So if you know someone that owns a business or you're a business owner, give me a call, let's talk about some prevention strategies that we have that may be helpful for you. From basic things, getting a home, out of the past at night, just making sure we can stay inside of the building, something that's still really discuss. But if you know anybody that's a business owner, they want to discuss some safety tips for their business, please have them reach out to them. I did discuss the park lights again. I said the Manchester area, along with those car break-ins, we're still getting a lot of problems taking our cars. With that being said, with our sons, gun owners that are leaving guns inside their vehicles unsecure. So if you want those who would like to go out and carry a weapon, we'll suggest that you get a gun cop. Gun safe, have it bolted down inside the vehicle, secure it. So again, lots of vehicles along the strip get broken into, lots of firearms get down into these criminal things. Nuisance problem areas, Ron can kind of go over that. I did ask our nuisance property owners if we had any locations inside our neighborhood that focusing on or there's something they're working on. And the guys told me that Forest Park, Southeast, they have 4 problem locations that they're currently working on. Other than that, it's not a whole lot going on. Again, if you want to talk to me one-on-one, have a conversation, anything that's going on in the neighborhood, or anything you focus on, let me know, if you guys have any upcoming events that you want us there, give me a call, so we'll try to get you guys on schedule to make sure that we are out there supporting that. Anybody has some questions for me, I'll be here for a few moments before I have to talk for another meeting, but I will give you guys my number. If you want to write it down. That number is 314-444-0127, and also everyone. If anybody on the Zoom saying that you guys have any questions, if you want to reach out and have a conversation with me, please feel free to call me or send me.
Question for you.
Mhm.
So what is the organization doing to us, Kyoto and the board? People tend to run that stop sign, show at 5:60 in the morning. Tend to walk my dog and just plow forward full speed. Is there anything is it doing to address those?
That hasn't come up to me, but I can't put that on radar. So basically what I would do is send an email, then it's 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I will request that our line watch officers kind of pay attention to that before they make leave. We have any officers that maybe want to come in around those type of hours and working over 4 or 5 hours just for overtime to kind of address it. We will put out that all over, and we'll probably do our 9 watch officers. And if it's something on the weekend, I probably can speak with, the security officers over there working. All of the officers in the secondary, to see if they can also pay attention to it. But I can't put that on the radar to see if we can have traffic come out of the forest. Yeah, it's like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, it's probably gonna fall on.
Thank you, Officer Walker. We will move on to Ward 9 updates with Alderman Michael Brennan. And the mic does work better if you move it further away from your mouth, so thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you all. I see a lot of familiar faces and a few new ones, so it's nice to have you all here tonight, and it's beautiful evening as well. I've got a few things to update you all on, but first let's start with my contact information. I am always available, whether it's email, by phone, that is my cell phone number that you see there. Honestly, don't send me a fax. I don't know where those go. Or you can come down to City Hall, but I'm up to the meeting, so if you really want to reach me, the best 2 ways are email. Really, the best way is email, because that's how I stay on top of things. But I'm always open to phone call and text that number, but again, email is the best way to get your issue addressed. I've been up to a few things recently. First, I'll cover, you ever go down the road and you're like, dang, this is bumpy. Or man, I'm gonna bust my tire on that pothole. And then you realize it's not a pothole, it's actually a utility patch that has just kind of shifted over time. And the more you pay attention to our roads, the more you notice that 90% of what's wrong with them is actually utility work that's just gauged poorly. Well, that's something we'd like to address. So I'm working with all the village fights here at the first ward and at the board to create a bill that will address when the utility company wants to come and dig up our road, that they have to come back and return it to how they found it, or they have to do it in a time frame where the road is going to be repaid. Part of that is going to be the city developing a paving plan, which I'll get into later. Believe it or not, we don't schedule paves 5 years out. We actually just schedule them about a few months out. And that leads to a very inefficient and incomplete way of taking care of our streets, but rather inadequate way too. So that's one issue you want to address. This is actually a picture of Gibson Avenue in our neighborhood where Spire recently came along and put, I'm not exaggerating, 160 holes in the ground in a 2-block space. There's 80 of those large holes. Now, to be fair, this one is our water division. They're going to be covered by the building too. But all those holes you see on the side, those were all Spire. They had to put in a new line. We like new construction. That's good. But it's only fair that they return it back to how they found it. So that's something we're working on, and I'm really excited about. Next. Another thing I noticed about the neighborhood, especially along Manchester, people parking in front of hydrants, or people parking in front of crosswalks, or in front of ADA ramps. This is an accessibility issue, and it's dangerous. When you don't have a safe place to cross, especially if you're someone who uses a mobility device, you have to then go to the street, and we've actually lost lives in the city from people who don't get around as easy as you or I, but have to use some sort of device like a wheelchair. They end up in the street, they get hit by a car, and then we don't have them anymore. That's a tragedy. It makes me angry when I see things like this because, you know, in an emergency, the fire department's not gonna be able to access that hydrant. Or if someone needs to cross that crosswalk, they're not gonna be able to without putting themselves in danger. So I want to see us take more action on this, which is why I'm working on a bill to increase enforcement on this. And the way that I'm thinking of doing that is for only these instances where accessibility or safety is a matter of concern. Citizens will be able to take a picture with their phone and send that into our parking division. And the person will get a ticket in the mail. We do this with red light cameras, and I think it's only a matter of appropriateness to make sure that we're protecting the most vulnerable people among us, to make sure that they're not doing that. Now, I am previewing this to you all, but it's gonna take some time, and we're gonna be ironing out the details. We do have to get the court case on the state level in order to make this happen, so this is something that I'm working on, but I wanted to make you all aware, because this is a problem, especially in our neighborhood, especially in Manchester, especially on weekend nights when there's not always parking enforcement officers working, so I just wanted to highlight that. So, question.
I was gonna suggest if we get red paint like near a fire hydrant, red paint, say 6 feet or whatever, 8 feet.
Yeah, so the idea of painting the curb, something so that people know not to park there. I think it's a great idea. It's something that we can certainly look into. Recently, the city has not been painting curbs, and it's just a matter of just not having the resources to be able to get those and keep them up to date. But that's another update I got. So the next update I have for you.
I have 2 questions for you, Mark.
Two more questions.
I'm going to inform people that are not parking to go to the intersection, so they can be aware of it. But I mean, if you was on the time, this was a commission. Second question is, what are the costs of how it's fines on taxes? How would you get those people to deal with the consequences of breaking this rule?
Sure thing. So the 2 questions were how are we gonna let people know about this program, and the other was how are we gonna catch people with theft tags or no foot stall. The first answer is, you know, we're gonna have a large rollout on this. I said it's probably several months away at least, because we have some laws we can change at the state level first, and we have to get a program up and running. But this is something I can talk with the treasurer's office on. Why the treasurer's office is they're in charge of enforcing parking in the city. And that's something that we will work on and have a good rollout to make sure people are aware. Both people who are maybe the kind of people who might park at the hydrant or crosswalk, but also the average population. Now, I even toyed with the idea of having an incentive process built in. So if you're the one who reports it, maybe you get a check as well. That's how it works with legal dumping right now. If you report an illegal dumper, and if you don't know this, by the way, if you see someone illegal dumping, safely take a picture of them doing it, make sure to get their license plate, send that into our police, and not only will that person get a $1,000 fine, but you will get a $100 check. How do I know this? Because I've done it. And I got a $100 check in the mail, and I was like, what is this? And then a police officer called me and they were this for. So it works, and it's a great deterrent to help keep our alleys clean. I'd like that to also be something that help keep our roads safe for everybody. So the next update I have for you all is tangential. Yes.
Video would, if this works, if with the, let's say, taking a photo and sending it in, would that also work for me?
Yeah, so the question is, without the parking districts, for people who are not supposed to park in parking districts, a little trickier there because we enforce that via plate recognition, and so there's no physical hang tag that will display anymore for those parking districts.
Photo of the plate.
To check to see if they're supposed to be
No,
there.
if you send it, if you suspect that it's somebody who doesn't live in that parking district.
Gotcha.
Right, instruction.
So likely not in this iteration. What we'd like to avoid is neighbors, reported neighbors, and causing like those stats. We really want to keep this focused on accessibility and safety. So that's why I wouldn't probably push it on to something like that. But I think it's a matter of making sure that again, people can cross the road safely. And then I realized that it's your question. People with expired tags. That's a challenge in enforcement across the city, no matter what the crime is. But the really cool thing about a parked car is that it's not moving, there's no one in it, so you can actually get up close, and if you can get that VIN number, we should be able to track as the owner and actually ticket the money. So that's one way to get around that, is just alternate ways to identify it.
I think only the police can ticket for registration issues. So that's something that.
Yeah, and I know that our treasurer's office works with the police in that matter. So, in the meantime, though, if you do see issues like this walking up in Manchester until we get this law, I do encourage you to reach out to the police. They do have the power to ticket these cars as well. And oftentimes, sometimes, especially if you're familiar with this location, or I won't mention the location by name, but I think you all know where it is. People park on the sidewalk, park on the crosswalk. It's awful. We talk to that business about their customers, and they kind of say, well, we can't help where our customers park, but it's strange that it's only their customers. So I would love to get that enforced, because I think it's a matter of safety again. Yes.
Want to like just briefly explain what the state level issue is?
Yeah, the state level issue that we have to change is that right now for parking tickets, you have to actually place the ticket physically on the car. And we'd like to just get that changed so you can send it in the mail to the registered owner. So it should be an easy fix, but no, Missouri legislature. All right. This next update is actually really exciting. So the Charter Commission, if you're unaware where the Charter Commission is, this is this citizen-led group that formed over the last year to examine our city charter and recommend updates to it. They have finally released their investigation and looking into our charter and their recommendations to what to do to it. And this is what they recommended. There's 7 items here. They range from the Board of Estimate Enforcement, heavy reform. You're unfamiliar with city government. It's, yes, very antiquated in the way it's set up. We have this thing called Board of Estimate Enforcement. Basically, all financial transactions that the city does have to go through them, and it's made up of the comptroller, the mayor, and the president of the board of aldermen. This slows things down significantly. It makes it really hard for our city to compete. So this would get rid of that process and create an office, a Department of Finance at the city. And there's some details to be worked out, but this would look to streamline that. That also would get rid of the comptroller position as an elected position in the city and move that over to the director of finance that's appointed by the mayor. So I'm not going to get into the pros and cons of each of these tonight because it's a lot of stuff, but I encourage you all to look into this, educate yourself, because these will be on the ballot in November and you'll be voting on them. And we can discuss them more at length as these recommendations get finalized, but these are them for now. And then the other recommendations you see here is an Office of Public Advocate. They have giving more budget authority to more aldermen, creating a new department called the Department of Transportation, and I'm going to go into that more in a second. Allowing the mayor's director to appoint and fire things like the personnel director, or the police chief, the fire chief. Believe it or not, she cannot do that right now. So imagine being the chief executive of the city and not being able to control who your director of personnel is. And revamping city voting. This would move the elections to August and November along with the federal cycle. Again, see lots of pros and cons to that, but we can discuss that more in the future. Circling back to the Department of Transportation, this is the one that I've been put in charge of. So this is really exciting. All of these are to get mixed up with the Board of Aldermen first, so that we can refine the language and then officially put them on the ballot. And the Department of Transportation is something that I've been working on for the past several months. This essentially would take our current streets department, which has existed in its current form for about a century now, and turn it into something where all transportation related things in the city are under one umbrella. It would enable the streets department to have planning within that department. Right now, our complete streets coordinator, the guy who's in charge of making sure that our streets are accessible for all types of people, he's over in the planning department. He's not even under streets, and yet he is the one who's responsible for actually figuring out how to make our streets safer. So the idea would be to pull offices into and create an overarching Department of Transportation. This is something that other states have done, including our colleagues across the state. Kansas City, Cape Girardeau has it, just another state city that has that, but also bigger cities like Chicago or New York have it as well. So what we'd be doing is we'd be looking to make sure that we size this right for St. Louis. But the idea is to create a much more efficient, much more transportation focused department that is really going to transform our streets into, from what they are now, which is too wide, dangerous, people go too fast on them, into something that really prioritizes, again, the most vulnerable people in the city. Because when our streets work well for people who are, you know, using a wheelchair or pushing a stroller, or somebody who uses a cane, if the street works well for them, guess what? It works well for all of us, and it's safe for all of us. So this is the goal, is to create something that works a lot better. And this is a really exciting time for our city, because these charter amendments could really reform our government to be a lot more responsive to you. So those are the updates I have. And last thing I'll say is that I have one more upcoming June office hours. If you'd like to talk to me, have additional questions about those charter recommendations or anything that you're wondering, you can stop by on Wednesday, June 26th. I'll be sitting in Choto Park between 5 and 6 p.m. There's only a few bigger tables, so just walk around, you'll see me, and come over, say hi, and just share what's on your mind. With that, that's all I have. Is there any additional questions before I end this back to Dan?
You're saying for our whole neighborhood, you're gonna be in the park for 1 hour?
Yeah, so I'll be in the park for the hour on June 26th, and I do try to have a couple of these a month. So the first one I had was on June 12th, and that was over at Northwest Coffee in Central West End. And then this one I'll have in the evening. So I usually try to do one during the day and one in the evening. And again, you can always reach out to me via email and just ask for an appointment on your own. I'm always willing to fit any of my constituents in my schedule, sit down and talk with you wherever you want to meet, because I really view that that responsiveness and accessibility to be an important part of this job. So I want you to all feel comfortable using those ways to contact me.
Hey, I sent you an email to try to set up a meeting, you haven't gotten back to me, that was over a month ago. But I want to tell you about this, like 1 hour thing, he has built all we had last week. She did the same thing, and it was like, you know, you meet at the coffee house, so there's like 7 people show up to see her, and she's got an hour. And what can you really talk about, you know, when you gotta divide your time, and she's got someplace else to go? It's like, if we're gonna double your salary, which we already did, and you're talking a full-time job, and you care about us, first of all, you shouldn't make a meeting with people, especially their own property here, that have sent you emails and asked you for a meeting. She said, haven't returned that yet. And then to give a 1 hour thing in the park, everybody in our neighborhood, come by and talk, 1 hour, really? Michael, listen, I know you're from Grafton, and you're from the other side, you're down here trying to make a difference, whatever. But listen, if we want to get something done, we really want to get stuff done. We have about plus people already. We want to have meetings, we want to talk about, you know, how we're going to live here. So, I mean, these are the things we need to say about. I don't want to try to out you, but come on, man, don't be blowing a lot of smoke at the meeting like you want to take meetings, but you're not calling people back. You're not setting up these meetings, and then you give us an hour for everybody in this whole neighborhood.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, I did prepare your email, and as I said, happy to meet with anyone. You know, I wish I could devote more time, honestly, but we have twice the board now, and I do have a lot of meetings to get to. But like I said, email me, and I'm always happy to set up an appointment with you to talk about whatever's important to you. We are getting a lot of stuff done, you know, and I am trying to always work on behalf of you. So I do appreciate those comments, but I think we're really moving things along. So one of the things that I'm really excited about, and we're going to have some updates from some of our community partners with this meeting, and I think that will be really big news for this neighborhood. So I think that's all we'll do. And yeah, once again,
That's it. Sure. He did bring some valid concerns. This is my recommendation for you. He did not bring some valid concerns, say that there's not enough time to address everyone that is in my he's probably looking for this solution to the problem. And what I can pitch to you is like structure your meeting, the 1 hour to focus on one particular subject or agenda. That when you are coming out there, you can focus on that opportunity time to address this one specific subject. And the next time that we meet, it will be a different topic. But leave it open ended, people have disappointed and you move on.
Well, thank you, yeah, I'm definitely open to considering other ways to reach people. I also have about 3 or 4 town halls every year to try to bring people together and talk about bigger topics, but. Yeah, always looking for better ways to stay in touch with people, so happy to do that, and again, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm willing to sit down and talk about it.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. We'll move on to neighborhood updates, with Ron Coleman.
Well, that sounds like a happening routine. Serious discussion, updates and from. So Officer Walker mentioned the nuisance properties. A lot of you talked to me about 44 around Gibson, which had several squatters in it. And just collecting a lot of junk in the back and living there for many months actually, before the neighbors realized they really weren't paying any rent and the owner didn't know they were there. It was out of town. So we finally, I went by and talked to them, told them they needed to move and that there was going to be a response. Closing the property, and they did leave without any issues in the property, secure now, neighbors are very happy. So let me know if you have any issues like that. Don't always take new tenants at their word and say they have a lease, because they may not have a lease. That's happened in several places. You've noticed some of the properties that are owned by Rise, which is a development corporation. Some of those in the neighborhood have not been taken care of recently. They are restructuring those properties. Big plan that should be closing this Friday, and hopefully those properties then will be taken care of. But a couple of those have squatters currently as well. But we are aware of those. You can always reach out to me if you have concerns about it. Make sure some of you complained about the lake and the North Point property, where North Point was going to develop, or might develop, and there was forming a lake. Well, North Point Lake sounds kind of like this place would be, but it was collecting mosquitoes and everything. But I talked to the current owner, and they got the demo contractor back out and leveled it properly, so it shouldn't have any mosquitoes. Just a reminder, when planting the trees, the weather is really hot. If you can, for all of your volunteer efforts to help with show the park and some other watering needs in the neighborhood, he has a way to tap into the fire hydrants and add a little water to the trees. So that's really interesting. But do help the young trees in on your own block. And I think that's, well, there's, you see pickleball. Okay. Geez, where's it? And then the boat pickup is this week, so they are on schedule, so it should be through the blocks on Thursdays. Get your junk out that you don't want. Thank you.
Cool, awesome.
Question for you though. Shows on Sarah Street area, there's gone so many constructions that have no sign on it. What is a wooden fence or fenced area that has grass going in? What's the plan?
Yeah, the owner has it up for sale, and he put $1 million into just peering the property because he's going to build a 7-story structure there. So it's just for sale. He's trying to find. And the city has written up for a moment. We need some the fence and everything else. So we're doing everything we can. It's just
I have a question for you. Last time I attended the meeting, there was concern about Airbnb and crime. Statistics, people cycling through in the house and trying to increase base of problem. Is there any plan in place and how is that being addressed?
We do have legislation that was passed on the Airbnbs. They are trying to figure out a way to administer what they passed. So I think they're working on ways to come up with a way for the owners to register the Airbnbs and get a list and keep track of that. Correct. So I don't know when I don't think they know when we'll be ready to roll out, but hopefully this fall. Okay, so this fall, hopefully the owners, if you have an Airbnb, you'll be able to register it. make sure you're getting it inspected every year, it has to, they all have to be inspected annually. So
Can you talk about the inspection aspect, and what exactly are you looking at?
it's just your typical housing conservation inspection, if you want to take it. So one of the things, this is Alderman Brown again, for those online. One of the things that, the board passed last year was, regulations for short-term rentals like Airbnb, VRBO. What this did is instead of a permit system, that people will have to register for, we put a limit on how many a single owner can own. We put in all sorts of restrictions about, use and, occupancy limits and, even ways to report it. So what will happen is if there is a unit that is a problem, you know, is often attracting crime, neighbors will be able to call in the city, register complaints. There will be a kind of 3 strikes and you're out system, although you can also get out on the first violation, depending on what happens there. So if there's a shooting, for instance, at one, they're done. Their permit will be revoked, and they will not be allowed to be able to do short-term rental of that property. In addition to that, we had rules on making sure there's not too many in a single building, because we heard of that being a problem in the neighborhood, what we call ghost hotels, where you live in a 5-unit building and 4 of them are short-term rentals, and feel like you don't have any neighbors. So we put caps on that, and it'll just be a much more comprehensive way of making sure that we not only know what are short-term rentals in the city, but that the ones that do exist are good operators and not some of these, you know, out of town. And the last thing I'll say is we put in a provision that we have to have somebody that is within a 1-hour reply time that's responsible for that short-term rental. So no more owners out in Colorado who can't be reached when there's an emergency. It has to be someone who's responsible for it here in the city.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Cool, thank you. All right, going to cover some events and news, and then we'll get into our guest speakers who've been patiently waiting in the back. Can't wait to hear more about the Steinberg Rink updates. I want to start off with CSB requests. So if you ever see an issue outside the city or inside the city, like missing armadillos or flex posts on your bike path, or a downed bus sign or stop sign, or maybe you have a pothole or you see some graffiti. All examples of me just walking around the neighborhood and submitting a CSB request to fix that problem. You can call them, you can report online, you can tweet them, you can live chat them for a variety of issues or concerns you see around the city. These 4 just being examples of some that I spot almost every day. They're super responsive and put in a request to get it fixed and addressed with the proper city department. One event that is coming up is an event on the strategic land use plan. They are exploring the future land use along South Kings Highway. This Thursday, from 6:30 to 8 at the South City YMCA, they'll have a session to explore what Kings Highway from 64 to 40 to Christie Boulevard could look like in the future. This is a corridor that is currently has many auto-oriented land uses, and they want to hear what you think it should be like in 15 to 25 years. Especially us as we live or work nearby. So definitely plan to join that if you can. They encourage you to register. There's a link down there, bit.ly/KHSLUP.
Yes. Speaking for myself.
Sure, we're a little tight on time.
I'll be very, this is important. So this is what our zoning is based on. So we're about to do a zoning overhaul for the entire city. That will affect what kind of buildings can be built where and what they can be used for. The strategic land use plan is really imagining what our city could look like in certain places. And this one is going to be focused on Kings Highway between Highway 6440 and Christie Boulevard. So really the entire section of Kings Highway that goes past our neighborhood. And if you have ever been over in that area, you're thinking, well, I don't really like to go over there. Think about why you want to go over there. Is there a better feel for the outside? Is the road really wide? Is it kind of scary? Does it feel unsafe? What are the kind of things you like to see there? So this is the kind of event where you can come and they really share whatever's in your mind of what you'd like to see in our city. And it's like simple as, I don't want to see as many gas stations. Okay, share that. Or I want to see better pedestrian, crossings for Kings Highway. Share that. But this is a really excellent chance for you to see what the future could look like. Again, we're talking not like what's possible now, but in 15 to 25 years. So this is saying, hey, I love this city. I want to see it do well in the future. Let's go and share our thoughts on that. So,
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
The back of Sholto and Manchester highways is what they call Case Highway. There are buildings that they have like that, look like abandoned, that facing the road. What's the city's plan to work this?
Over on Manchester, as you approach Steinberg Rink.
If you go, Kings Highway connects, that's a strip of road, that faces, Manchester, that's Manchester, that's Sholto. The back of it is, Kings Highway, but those buildings are over there seem to be like almost abandoned or like sitting there for a while.
You're talking about on Kings Highway or on Manchester?
It's not on Manchester Road, I'm just giving you, like, this is Manchester Road,
Yeah.
the Vanguard, and until Kings Highway. And then it's Sholto, but Sholto doesn't connect, Sholto and Sholto does not connect to Kings Highway. I'm saying if you take Sholto, hit that dead end, walk towards Manchester Road, on the side, and you see all those people there.
Have you been recently?
I did walk there a few days ago.
A few days ago.
Yeah, so there were some better ones that went through the common, but then there's some other ones that are over on Manchester. Those are condemned and, we're trying to get them taken down soon. There's apartment building plan there. But the general answer there, whatever abandoned building you see, is that oftentimes it can either be, an absentee owner or somebody who's just speculating on that piece of land. They're sitting on it, waiting until it gets, more valuable so they can sell it. And in every situation, it's unique as to how to approach it. How we do approach that, something you might be interested in looking into is the vacancy collaborative. If you look at their meetings and go, you can see all the different ways in which we're addressing those types of properties. Everything through stabilization efforts. Sometimes it's working with current developers to try to acquire and fix up. Sometimes it's applying for historic tax credits to build, bring that building back to life. There's all sorts of ways we attack that problem. It's not just a problem in St. Louis, it's a problem in every city in the country. But we have this really cool thing called the Vacancy Collaborative, which is a bunch of different agencies that work together to address them. So it's really neat and really inspiring if you go to one of their meetings. So highly recommend checking it out.
Can I just say that the problem that's been in the past is when they do these strategic, long-term plans, it usually involves what they have here is a committee. It usually involves people that are not owners. The reason you don't go down there is because your house or your business is not there. And the problem with the city government has been historically, if you look it up, because they're responsible for the Team 4 plan, which blighted and destroyed many areas of the city. The problem is what we have now, it's the same progressive that will not meet with owners to discuss what the owners have invested their savings of their life and they want to use the property. And when they don't take that into account, what happens is people leave the city. And so what we like to say in these public meetings, when you're talking to these public officials that represent us citizens, is listen, take meetings with owners. Prioritize that because owners are developers. You're gonna fix on your house. I've seen several people in this room that have fixed their houses up and have done a lot of things to improve their own house. And that's what the city has to focus on. And when they don't do it, they have these core groups that want to plan for you. They actually drive people out of the city. So we really want to encourage you, Michael, to take meetings with people that live here, that bought stuff here, that are heavily invested. We need to talk to government about what we can do.
We're a little tight on time, so we gotta get
Thank you very
moving.
much.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
Thank
Monthly litter cleanup is coming up. It is this weekend on June 22nd at 10 a.m. Each fourth Saturday of the month, we meet at Manchester and Newstead and clean a different part of the neighborhood. All the tools are provided. Everyone's welcome to attend. It might be a little hot, so we might start a little bit earlier than 10 a.m. We'll keep you posted about that. As Ron brought up, we have Shoda Park tree care blitzing through the months of summer. A group of volunteers is watering all the newly planted trees in Shoto Park. The next watering is on July 7th at 8 a.m. If you would be interested in helping watering these trees, would love some volunteers, you can reach out to myself or Cami after the meeting, and we can talk to you about how you can get involved. Another meeting that is coming up is a MoDOT open house for Manchester and Shoto improvements. Over the past several months, they've met with a variety of different committees to hear ways in which we can address street repaving project and make it a safer way for everyone who wants to get around by car, by bike, by wheelchair, to along Manchester, and they're holding an open house on Tuesday, June 25th, from 4 to 6 here, for everyone to share their thoughts on the proposed plans for the road that goes the main corridor in our neighborhood. So if you'd like to attend that, that is this next Tuesday. Yes. They have it for 2025. We are hosting a dog days of summer at Shoto Park. So if you have a dog, if you want to pet a dog, if you love ice cream, we're hosting an event for everyone who enjoys the above. We'll have dog pools and free pup cups, free ice cream for everyone there. Don't need to RSVP, just show up the dog or with your love for ice cream on Sunday, July 14th, and let's have a good time. Nope, that is not what that is. If you ever were curious about using the Metro bus for the first time, it might feel intimidating, but it isn't. If you've wanted to try riding the bus, there's a social event designed to help you master the ins and outs of the Metro system. If you're curious and want to join this event or get involved in riding the bus, you can reach out to Melanie, who is hosting these Metro excursions on June 16th, which was 2 days ago, but also on June 22nd. She's been doing them for a couple months now, but you can reach out to her. There's her phone number and her email. And then lastly, it's a new restaurant coming to the Grove, Lucy Quinn and Little Lucy. Ben Welch plans to open the dual concept space in the former Beast location on Manchester. It should open, I believe, later this fall in September. So keep your eyes out for that. Yeah, it's a Southern inspired eatery, and then I believe it's more of a bar diner concept on the side of it. But if you're curious, I believe STL Mag and maybe Feast Magazine has more information on that. Without further ado, Steinberg Rink updates. We have Stacy, Frank, and Cordell here, who will be presenting on Steinberg Rink updates.
This mic over here.
I would use this one. Actually, that one is gonna be better. Yep, if you turn that one on, then should be a button.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. My name is Frank Cartman. I lead operations for Forest Park Forever. We are a private nonprofit conservancy that partners with the city of St. Louis's Department of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry in the management and operations of Forest Park. First, let me say thank you to all of you for sharing your valuable time with us so we can share with you what our plans are for Steinberg. Joining me this evening is Stacy Way. She's a principal with Christner Architects, and Christner Architects is the architect of record for the Steinberg project. And then Cordell Whitlock is with Vector Communications, and he is leading our community engagement effort for Steinberg. Next slide. Okay, so for this evening, the agenda for this presentation is to just give you the objective for the meeting, talk about the project context, what is it about, and then review the history and existing conditions of Steinberg for just a little bit, which tees up the need for the design of this project. And then talk a little bit about our community engagement efforts. Those are very important to us. We want to make sure that the whole community has a voice in this public realm project. And then Stacy will take us through some images that represent the emerging design for Steinberg. And then we'll wrap it up with just a little bit on next steps. Next slide. So the objective for the project is really to introduce to you, if you don't already know about it, or update you on the progress of design on this project, get your reaction to it, and hear any feedback you have on programming at Steinberg that you think would be welcoming and important to you to see at Steinberg. Next slide. So the context for the project, next slide, really comes from the objective of redeveloping, or renovating the Steinberg Pavilion, the Steinberg Ice Rink, and also the surrounding grounds for Steinberg. Next slide. This is also really, as if you think back, if you're aware of, and the Forest Park Master Plan was created in 1995. For the whole east side of the park, there was this vision of combining and integrating the linear waterway system with the Steinberg facility. You see that picture here on the right side of the map view of Forest Park, really the Kings Highway border of Forest Park. And up in the upper section here is Round Lake, which last year we replaced the fountain there. And the linear waterway today stops in front of Steinberg, but if you've been to the park lately, you might have seen the construction to join that linear waterway with the north end at Jefferson Lake. And then we've also got a number of improvements happening on Jefferson Lake right now. And then down here in the southeast corner of the park, closest to all of you, is Round Lake, a little known lake, but it's received a lot of attention over the last year and a half. We built a pavilion there, and you wrap all that together with Steinberg, and you see this nice opportunity for the integration of an improved Steinberg with the landscape in that area. Next slide.
So is the project done, or you guys still working?
No, the waterway project is under construction right now. We're in the middle of the design of the Steinberg renovation project.
Okay.
So I mentioned the Forest Park Master Plan that was created in 1995 by the community of St. Louis, and it lays out a holistic approach to the restoration of Forest Park after many decades of decline that it had experienced. So every project that is done in Forest Park needs to support the vision of the Forest Park Master Plan, and it's an over 700-page document. There's a whole section on Steinberg, and we can distill that down to the vision for Steinberg, which is to operate an all-season, actively and passively programmed facility. So today it's only ice skating in the winter, but we want to expand that to 4-season programming in addition to ice skating. Next slide. A little bit on our community engagement. That there are two parts to that. There is going out into the community and listening to the interests of the members of the St. Louis region, as well as our Forest Park Advisory Board. And this graphic here just illustrates that every project that goes through consideration for construction in Forest Park has to go before the Forest Park Advisory Board, a 25-member citizen volunteer board that evaluates every project for consideration for construction in Forest Park through the lens of the master plan to ensure that it is sensitive to the vision of the master plan and consistent with its objectives. Next slide. So let's, a little bit about the history. Steinberg is very interesting. Next slide. The bulk of the gift that afforded the construction of the original Steinberg in 1957 was given by Etta Steinberg in honor of her, in memory of her husband, Mark C. Steinberg. She did that with one requirement, that Steinberg be open and available to all St. Louisans, regardless of race, ethnicity, or what have you. And so it is believed that Steinberg is one of the first public facilities in the city of St. Louis that was officially integrated, racially integrated. Frederick Dunn was the architect of Steinberg, very well known in the arena of mid-century modern design, architectural design. Next slide. Here you see an image of Steinberg when it was built. It's just important to note that while this is a significant architecturally and culturally historical facility, it has already seen a number of changes over its 60+ years of existence. You might see the portals on the parapet wall. Those used to hold speakers. They're gone today. The lattice work that is shown in this photo is gone. So a lot of changes have already happened to that structure. Next slide. You know, even when Steinberg was created in 1957, they had interest in it being a four-season facility. Most of us know it as an ice skating rink only, but truly it is, over many of its decades of existence, it also has hosted roller skating in the warm weather months, and square dancing was also a popular activity that took place right on the ice rink itself in the summer months. Next slide. So now we'd like to turn to the existing conditions of Steinberg that is a big part of the motivation for this design project. And I'm going to turn it over to Stacy to review that with you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Way. I'm an architect, a practicing architect and managing principal at Christner Architects. So we've been working with Forest Park Forever for several years now on the project, really laying the foundation for what we have to present to you today. And part of that included some really significant investigations into the existing building. It is a wonderful example of mid-century modern architecture, but if you are familiar with that style of architecture, architects were typically experimenting with new technologies and new materials at the time. And a lot of what they created hasn't held up so well now, 60 and 70 years later. So Steinberg has received some incremental changes over the years, but what we really want to do is create a renovation to this building that is going to sustain it for the next 50+ years moving forward. And part of that means fixing some pretty significant challenges to the building. One of the main challenges in Steinberg right now is actually the structure of the building. The roof slab has been compromised and there's been significant water infiltration into the building that's been occurring for decades. Additionally, the back foundation walls were never waterproofed when they were installed, and water has been seeping in again for decades. The storefront system does not meet modern codes and is not a modern functioning storefront system. Additionally, a lot of ADA requirements, those clearances that you see to make sure that individuals with mobility challenges can access restroom stalls and access doors and share the spaces with everyone equitably. Those don't exist in Steinberg in a way that functions for everyone. So while we love the architecture of the building, our hope is to honor that architecture moving forward, but we are making some significant modifications to the building. Additionally, all of the building systems are really past their usable life, and we'll be replacing all of the building systems within the building. Additionally, the refrigeration system for the rink itself, the refrigerants used in that system are no longer allowed by the EPA. They've been phased out incrementally. So we'll be replacing the entire refrigerant system for the rink with a new, modern, efficient system that's far more environmentally friendly. And as part of this project, one of the wonderful things is it presents an opportunity for us to not just replace the system, but to do right sustainability wise for this building. So we're replacing with more efficient systems. We're also able to leverage the current market conditions and incorporate a new geothermal field below the parking lot of the building. So this building will operate far more efficiently and economically moving forward. Trying to go to the next slide. Yep, already touched on all those. Great. Cordell, if you want that.
Thank you, Stacy. Now we'd like to just review with you the community engagement we've been doing on this project and are continuing to do. This is very important to us. And to really do that justice, we need to go back to 2018 when we did the initial feasibility study for Steinberg. And in that process, we had many meetings with focus groups, rec center, people who frequent the city's recreation centers and other entities along the way, really to find out what would they like to see in a 12-month-a-year Steinberg facility. What kind of programming? What would make them feel welcome and feel like that facility represents them and who they are? Next slide. Also, in that feasibility study, we did some benchmarking. We evaluated a number of other existing ice skating facilities around the country that also have programming year-round, everything from Steinberg Rink in Central Park to Titletown in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Next slide. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cordell, who will talk to us about some of the more public form of community engagement.
Thanks, Frank. I am Cordell Whitlock. I work for Vector Communications. We are a public engagement and communications consulting firm, and we started our work in the fall of 2021. And Forest Park Forever in the city made it very clear to us that the success of this project was tied into Steinberg Reimagined being welcoming to everyone, regardless of age, race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation. So to that end, we started talking to groups, Outdoor Afro St. Louis, Black Women Who Hike, Pride STL. The idea being these are groups that may not normally come to Steinberg to skate, but we wanted to find out, number one, why aren't you coming to Steinberg? But number two, more importantly, what would bring you to Steinberg year round? So for those first few months, I probably talked to about 50 to 55 groups. I'm fairly certain I talked to this group via Zoom. This was in 2021, so COVID was still going on. And the main way we got feedback were surveys. We had a whole bunch of different type of surveys. The bottom line is we were able to get 5,000 responses, 5,000 surveys, people telling us exactly what they wanted to see at Steinberg Reimagined. In October of 2022, based on those survey results, we had an open house celebration at Steinberg. All of the activities and amenities were based on the most popular responses we got from the surveys. So we had roller skating, we had a DJ, we had yoga, we had lawn games, we had international music, we had international dance troupes. And I'll never forget, it was about 4:30, I went to the roof and I took a picture and there were about 300 people there. And at that moment I said, this is the best that St. Louis has to offer, because we did have all ages, all races, all ethnicities enjoying themselves, having a good time. And I think that event really showed the true potential of what Steinberg could be. Next slide, please. So what did we learn from all of this feedback? Amenities. People want to see upgraded food and beverage options. They want a variety of comfortable viewing areas and seating options for spectators. In terms of the operations and experience at Steinberg, a safe, welcoming, and accessible environment for all. They would like a more family-friendly atmosphere. In terms of the ice, and this was probably 85 to 90% of respondents, which is St. Louis, let's face it, that's consensus. Keep the large sheet of ice, keep the ice the same. They wanted the same shape. You can make it larger, but overwhelmingly everybody said, keep the rink the same shape. And they also wanted a better quality of ice. In terms of programming, skating lessons and learn to skate programs, there are a lot of adults, a lot of kids that don't know how to ice skate. Why don't you offer some free or reduced cost lessons so folks can learn how to actually ice skate? In terms of programming, festivals, outdoor markets, live music were at the top of the list, lawn and outdoor games. And then last but not least, what we heard from the beginning of this project all the way through till now, bring back roller skating.
Okay, so that was a lot of buildup, but I'm sure you're all wondering, what does the actual project look like? This is a very blurry site plan that I'm sure you can't read very well from where you're sitting, but the primary components of the project will be a complete renovation of the existing Steinberg Pavilion, an addition, so adding a second story on top of Steinberg, and I'll show some images of that in a little bit. We will be replacing the ice rink, but maintaining, replacing the rink and the systems, but maintaining the current size and shape and location of it. We will be adding a new large interactive water feature. It's about a 4,000 square foot water feature, so it's comparable in size to the large splash pad down at City Garden. Additionally, we will be renovating all of the landscape and site from the Waterways project, which is the blue kind of stripe on the west side of that site plan, all the way to Kings Highway. So we'll be making sure that all of the pathways are ADA accessible. We'll be redoing the parking lot as part of the geothermal field, improving access for service for the city, really enhancing the landscaping around there and creating a really attractive and inspiring place to be. So if you want to go to the next slide. So I have a series of renderings. I'll go through these pretty quickly and can answer any questions that you might have about the project. So this rendering would imagine that you are approaching Steinberg from the top corner of the ice rink. In this image to the left, you get a glimpse of that large interactive water feature that I mentioned. The rink is straight ahead, the building is in the background, and with the landscape renovations, one thing we're being really cognizant of is having intentionality around creating and fostering programming through that landscaping. So creating areas that are intended for picnics and gatherings and can support additional programming. We're making sure that there's power and data provided throughout the site so that we could have bands come in or have a festival there, or any kind of event that you can potentially imagine, making sure that we can have that on the site and host it seamlessly.
So where is the interactive water feature you're talking about in the image?
Yeah, I think the next image shows a better picture of it. It's right here in the background here. So it has a really nice dialogue with the rink. And here's that top end of the site. Yeah, so here's the interactive water feature. So it'll feature a cascade of stones and what's called a zero depth pool. It's just a thin scrim of water at the base of it. So it's not an actual pool. You will not be able to, be submerged and swim in it, but kids can certainly splash around and have fun. There will also be some really dynamic, activated, we have this wonderful imaginative water feature designer who's creating these choreographed cascades that are supposed to look like ships sailing within it. So it'll be really, really fun and activated. We're hoping that this becomes really an anchor attraction in the summer months. I'm going to go to the next slide. So here is an image of the building, of course. I mentioned that we'll be renovating the building itself and we'll be adding on a second story. It's not a straight extrusion for the second story. It's actually two independent glass volumes that are on the second story of Steinberg Pavilion. The one to the north there, you can see a little bit more clearly. That one will host a community living room, which is intended to be an open space for all. So it'll have really comfortable seating. Forest Park Forever will make sure that it's actively managed and supervised, so it's a safe and welcoming environment. It'll have a restroom in it. It's a place where if you're walking through the park, you could stop in and use the restroom and be in an air-conditioned space for a few minutes. You could also host some small community meetings there or just meet up with your friends. But it's really intended to be a living room space for everyone on this side of the park. The second volume is a little bit larger and it's more recessed into the back into the hill. So you can see it in the rendering, but it's not quite as clear. But the hope is that by adding these volumes to the top of the building, one, we can support all of the programming requests that were coming from the community. And two, we can really activate that rooftop Frederick Dunn, when he initially designed Steinberg, he imagined the rooftop as an observation deck. And that vision has never been fully realized. But now by adding shading devices and adding these pavilions on the rooftop, we're creating an area where people can relax and have a beautiful vista down onto Steinberg and throughout the rest of the park, and really, really leverage that amazing space for the observation deck that it was intended to be. I'll go to the next one. A quick floor plan. This is for the level 1, which is the existing current Steinberg. We will continue to provide a restaurant on this level as well. It'll be more of a grab and go kind of snack stop restaurant here. We will be expanding the warming room skate change space and really streamlining all of the operations for rental checkout and storage spaces to make sure that that can work a little bit more effectively and smoothly from an operational standpoint. We will be renovating all of the restrooms to make sure that they are ADA compliant, and we'll be incorporating family restrooms for the first time. And we have this notion around incorporating some open meeting rooms that will again be community assets. So these are meeting rooms that could be used for community events. They could be used for your Girl Scout troop meeting. They could also be rented for birthday parties, things like that. And they're right at the ice level, so it's a great spot. I have young kids, so it's a great spot if you have young kids. They can easily run out to the water feature and you can keep an eye on them. Okay, go to the next one. And this is a floor plan of that roof deck area. So as I mentioned, that you can see the 2 pavilions here, the community living room on the left, and then the larger pavilion on the right, that will host a sit-down restaurant. So there will be a brand new commercial kitchen in this building. We are hoping to attract a really fantastic chef-oriented restaurant on the upper level here. It'll have amazing views. It'll be immersed within the park, have amazing views, and have one of the best rooftop patios in town. So if you know of anyone, have them call Frank. If you want to go to the next one, yeah. So here's a rendering if you're standing on that rooftop patio, looking down in the summer months, what you might see. We really envision the rink itself as being heavily used in the summer. So Cordell mentioned roller skating. Roller skating will, of course, be supported on the rink. We're also hoping to support additional programming there. So potentially being able to rent out lawn games or other activities while you're visiting the site, having people come in to host additional programming, potentially looking into festivals or markets, anything that we can do to really help to activate Steinberg and make sure that we're achieving that 4-season usage that's envisioned. The next one. And then here's that same image in the wintertime. The hope is that that water feature is also a beautiful feature in the wintertime as well. Even though it won't have water flowing, it'll be a great spot for temporary fire pits, portable fire pits, and just great gathering and convening space. One thing that we heard from Cordell surveys where people were asking for more places that they can sit down comfortably and watch others while they skate and have an area to just, talk with their friends and have community at the ice rink. So we think the water feature will help support that a lot in the winter months as well. And go to the next one. And then this is the view if you are coming from Kings Highway down towards the building. So right now, that walk is not the most enjoyable walk. It has some awkward steps in it and it's not ADA accessible. We'll be fixing all of that and creating a really wonderful arrival sequence to the building. And with these new 2 pavilions on the top of Steinberg, they'll really act as beautiful beacons that tell you something's happening there. This is a wonderful space to come and a welcoming and enjoyable space to be in. So we're hoping that there's a lot more prominence and just a wonderfully welcoming and inviting experience to Steinberg. I think that's my last one. Oh, one aerial image. This is kind of a bird's eye image looking down at everything occurring. Oh, is there one more after that? Oh, yeah, winter month. Sorry, summer and winter. Okay, I'm going to pass it back.
Yeah, next steps. Next slide, please. Yeah, Cordell, you want to tell them what we're doing now and continuing to do with community engagement.
So when we started with the public engagement back in 2021, we were obviously asking, hey, what do you want to see at Steinberg? So what we did last Christmas of 2023, we got these stand banners designed. We had a set of 6. And basically, all of the images that Stacy just showed you are in the stand banners along with the information that she conveyed. And we had these on display for several months all across the area, the East St. Louis McDonald's, the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, 6 or 7 different locations in the Metro East, North City, South City, West County, North County. The idea being people basically take a self-guided tour to get the information that Stacy just shared with you. We also had a QR code for another survey we did. Basically, the survey asked, now that you've seen what Steinberg Reimagined could possibly look like, what are your thoughts? Are we on the right track? This survey was only open for about 3 months and we had close to 1,400 responses. So it just shows that there is a lot of public interest in Steinberg Reimagined.
Next slide. So next steps, you saw this image earlier. This is the 9-step process that contemplated by the Forest Park Master Plan and administered by the Forest Park Advisory Board under the direction of the City of St. Louis Parks Director. So just to share with you where we are in that approval process, we've been through step 3, which is a critical step in the process where you bring your concept for the project forward and you illustrate how it honors the vision of the master plan for whatever project it is that you're trying to gain support for construction in Forest Park, in this case, the Steinberg project. And we're in the middle of steps 4 and 5, where we're taking the design at its current current stage of development, sharing that with city departments who have jurisdiction over construction, over design, codes, etc., as well as the utilities that will be serving Steinberg and getting their feedback on the design at this stage, things they want us to be aware of that we need to be considering in the design. In the fall, we'll move on to step 6, which is where we take a 50% completed design before the advisory board. It's another check-in with them. They give their recommendation to the parks director, whether they still believe this is a project appropriate for Forest Park or it's not. And ultimately, the parks director makes the call on that. This project has been really well received by the advisory board thus far, and we are not anticipating any problems getting that final support from the parks director and the advisory board. And then there's steps 7, 8, and 9, and 9 is the final step where the advisory board makes its ultimate recommendation to the parks director. And that concludes our presentation. If there are any questions or any things you want us to consider from a programming perspective for Forest Park, please share those with us now. Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna ask you, where is the funding coming from, and what would be the cost to access the facilities?
Great questions. Yeah, I gave you a very abridged description of Forest Park Forever, but we are also a fundraising organization. So we're raising all the money for the project. That's a big part of what we do, in addition to performing maintenance and management and operations with the Parks Department in the park. As far as the price, that will vary depending on the programming that you want to take advantage of. We are in the middle of putting that business plan together and making sure that we're making it affordable for St. Louisans. There certainly will be a price that will have to be charged for the ice skating. To ice skate is an expensive operation, to refrigerate that ice and to have all the skates, that you rent and so on. So that will not be free, but we want to make sure it's priced appropriately for St. Louisans to be able to afford to come and use. And much of the revenue from that operation will be used to pay for what will be otherwise free programming at other times of the year and other activities that will be happening there.
So question.
Yes, sir.
what is the project kickoff or initialization date for this, and what's the duration? How long do you think this is gonna take for you guys to have these modifications made to the rink and the rest?
Yeah, great question. So, design should be wrapped up late this fall.
End of this year, yep.
And then, the contractor will select his subcontractors over the winter, and we expect to start construction in the spring of 2025. Steinberg ice skating season will be closed for the 25-26 skating season. But then the goal is to have it opened and available for ice skating come November 2026. So it's about a 19-20 month long construction period.
Pretty fantastic timeline.
Yeah.
What, I'm sorry, what?
So that's a pretty fantastic timeline.
Yeah, it's aggressive.
Minimal disruption.
Question over there.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier that there will be table space, et cetera, meeting space, I think you called it, and that there was going to be a form of management for that. I'm mentally comparing this to the visitor center.
Yeah.
Which currently, I believe, is being, the table space is wonderful there. People do meet up there and already do this kinds of things over on the other side of the park. This would be great to have the similar, but over there in the visitor center, it's more or less managed by volunteers.
The visitor center is managed by Forest Park Forever. That is another one of our responsibilities.
But are they volunteers?
We have volunteers that support us. Forest Park Forever has about 1,200 volunteers.
But will this be just volunteers, the same? Or
No, we have been working with the Parks Department for several years now to develop the plan for how it will be operated, and Forest Park Forever will be the operator of Steinberg. We'll use a combination of concessionaires to manage different pieces of the operation, like the restaurant will be managed by a restaurateur. The ice skating program will likely be managed by someone who has, who does ice skate rink management. Same with the roller skating. We'll have volunteers that staff that community living room that Stacy mentioned, so that if you come in there and you want to check out a board game or you have questions about other things to do in the park, there are ambassadors there to help answer your questions and steer you in the right direction. So it'll be a combination of ways of managing this facility. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
For the price for the ice skating, would you consider it being free for St. Louis public school students? Possibly?
We have talked about
Maybe
having,
they get one free skate a year or something.
yeah, we have talked about programs like that, you know. So I think that is within, you know, the realm of strong consideration. You had a question?
I do.
Okay.
My question is regarding the traffic pattern to the park from our corner. We either have to get into the park past Steinberg, we have to go and turn around at Steinberg, or do a U-turn, which personally I never do. But so I was wondering if you are making a roundabout there, or just some way that we can get into the park at easier traffic.
Yeah, there are no plans to change the road, the vehicle access to Steinberg. We do plan, however, your question
And
raised.
lines toward the park, like just going straight into the park on Clayton, right? If you come in on Clayton, you can't get into the park unless you go to Steinberg and turn around in the parking lot. That's the legal way to do it.
Right, yeah, I know a lot of people do it illegal way. Sometimes it doesn't work out so well, yeah.
But there's no plan to make like a roundabout or.
There isn't as a part of this project, no, but that subject comes up from time to time, so maybe it will get resolved in a future project, I don't know. Other questions? Well, thanks for your time, we really appreciate it, and I hope if you have any other thoughts around the project, you can reach us through that website or give us a call. go to our website, you can see the contact information for myself and others that work at Forest Park Forever. So thanks a lot for your time.
This is a good mic. I'm looking for this mic. Last bit of information to share, if I can find it. Just a recap of all the upcoming events. So this Thursday is the Sloop Future Land Use session along Kings Highway. Our neighborhood cleanup is this Saturday. A week from today is the MoDOT open house for improvements along Manchester. Come and see those proposed designs. We have the Shoto Park Tree Care, July 7th. Our event at Shoto Park, the Dog Days of Summer, on Sunday, July 14th. And our next meeting will be here on July 16th. That's it for today. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.